Hey everybody, Connor here. I just wanted to take a second to talk to you about Mana Traders. It's a great online service that you can use to rent Magic Online cards. I've been using it for over 2 years to play as much Magic Online as I do. I play a lot and I wouldn't be able to do it without them. So we want to say thank you to Mana Traders for sponsoring the YouTube channel. You can use coupon code MULLMONEY, that's MULLMONEY, to get 15% off your first 3 months when you subscribe to Mana Traders, and I really couldn't recommend them highly enough. If the rental isn't enough for you, they also run a free $15,000 monthly tournament that involves, they've got a leaderboard every month and a big Swiss tournament, and you get to compete for cash prizes, and that's really cool to be able to do in COVID times. You do need to be a subscriber to get full prizes, but you don't have to subscribe to play. You still get some prizes, even if you're not a subscriber and just want to battle. Also want to take a second to talk to you about the Holiday Cube Trophy Challenge that our very own Zach Allen's going to be participating in. He's going to be teaming up with Emma Handy, Numat the Nummy, and Jim Davis, taking on LSV, Caleb Durward, Jonathan Brostoff, and Hall of Famer Gabe Nassif, competing to see who can win the most trophies in the Magic Online Holiday Cube. It's going to be happening on December 26th and the 27th. Zach is going to be streaming it over on his Twitch page. That's twitch.tv/A22EN. So go over there, watch some fun matches, hang out with Zach, and take part in some giveaways. Hope you enjoy the video. Hey there, everybody. Connor here for another episode of Making Magic Happens, brought to you by RIW Hobbies and Games in Livonia, Michigan. And today, we're mixing it up a little bit. We're going to be playing some Modern. I've got something that I feel like is the best deck in the format right now in Green-White Reclaimer. I've been learning a lot about this deck from my friend Will X-Whale Kruger, one of the best Moto grinders on the platform. He's been playing a lot of Modern recently, and he's been crushing it. He won the Showcase Challenge a couple weeks ago with it. I finished in the top 32. I believe I got 25th in that event. And he had top-8'd the previous 2 weekend challenges before that. So he's just been tearing it up. I believe he lost playing for top 8 of this past weekend's challenge. And he thinks that this is the best deck in the format right now. I tend to agree. So we're going to be giving a little bit of a run through a prelim here on this fine Monday morning, and we'll let you know what we think. So to break down the deck a little bit, it is first of all a Primeval Titan deck. So you've got 4 copies of Primeval Titan, 1 Hour of Promise. And then it's a little bit more interactive, it's a little bit more slow and grindy. You're playing Eldamri's Call, which is kind of a toolbox. It can get Dryad, Primeval Titan, whichever's more powerful. Or in a pinch, it can get Skyclave Apparition, it can get Tangled Florahedron if you really need a land drop. Or it can grab one of our bullets out of the sideboard. Now, to break down the mana base a little bit, I've divided up here into solely mana-producing lands and then utility lands. So we've got all of our mana-producing lands over here. We've got a split between the basics of Snow and Regular for Field of the Dead purposes. So all of these make mana. Sometimes fetch lands are a little bit utility. Sometimes you'll get them off of a Primeval Titan just to make extra zombies off of Field of the Dead or get extra Valakut triggers off of Dryad. Now, my favorite combo in the deck, because while this deck is very fair, it's still a little bit of a combo deck, is Flagstones of Trocaire and Elvish Reclaimer. And a lot of the times with this deck, you're going to go turn 1 Elvish Reclaimer, turn 2 Flagstones of Trocaire, and then use Elvish Reclaimer's ability, which is 2 mana, sacrifice a land, search your library for a land, and put it on the battlefield tapped. And then it gets +2/+2, becomes a 3/4 if there's 3 or more lands in your graveyard. You're going to sacrifice the Flagstones of Trocaire, get a Plains, a Sacred Foundry, or a Temple Garden out of your deck, and then you'll just get another Flagstones of Trocaire. And then you'll do it again on turn 3, and then on turn 4, you'll have ramped twice, you'll be at 6 mana, and you can cast your Primeval Titan just off of these 2 cards alone, plus, other lands. You have Castle Garenbrig, which makes it so you get to Titan faster. Occasionally you get interesting situations here where you'll want to cast 2 Dryads, or a Dryad plus a Reclaimer, and this will be good for you to do. We have Ghost Quarter to fight against Tron decks. This is also really good against the blue decks in the format, because one of the best ways that they beat you is after you assemble Primeval Titan and make a lot of zombies, they'll just loop Cryptic Command and Mystic Sanctuary to make sure that you never get another attack step. Ghost Quarter makes it so that they can't loop those quite so easily. You can destroy any Mystic Sanctuary that they target with Cryptic Command, so that's pretty good. Radiant Fountain, obviously good against Burn and the Prowess decks that are going around right now. Also just good in a pinch if you need to gain some life. Field of the Dead is one of the 2 primary engines of the deck. Our goal is to get as many zombies in play as possible. Those will overwhelm most fair decks and can be a really good clock against some of the unfair decks of the format. We're playing Cavern of Souls. It's good to have that tutorable for Primeval Titan. Sometimes you'll make Dryad uncounterable, and it can also serve as a green source on turn 1 for Elvish Reclaimer. We have Bojuka Bog, and Bojuka Bog is great against, obviously, the graveyard decks, the Dredges of the world, Oops All Spells, if we see any of that. And it's also really good against, as I was saying before, the blue decks, because they operate a lot out of the graveyard. They have Uro, and they play Mystic Sanctuary, and a well-timed Bojuka Bog off of an Elvish Reclaimer can really hurt them. We have Blast Zone, just kind of a catch-all answer to any permanents that we might find problematic. It's good against tribal decks like humans, merfolk, goblins, good against artifact decks that might try to put us under an ensnaring bridge. I'm going to skip over this one for a minute. We have Valakut the Molten Pinnacle. Obviously the combo with Dryad is, pretty easy to figure out what that does. A lot of times we just have Dryad in play, and then we Primeval Titan, kill our opponent. We say bolt you a bunch of times. We have Vesuva. This is usually going to copy Valakut or Field of the Dead just to get multiples of our engines going. Sometimes it'll copy one of our opponent's lands, and a really cool trick you can do with Vesuva is if you have a Dryad in play and you just play Vesuva and don't copy anything, it enters untapped and just taps for any color, because it's a one of each basic land type due to Dryad of the Elysian Grove. Obviously this looks bad if Dryad gets removed somehow, but that's a good thing to keep in mind if you ever need an untapped land and you need Vesuva to come in untapped. Now, I have Sanctuary in the utility lands slot. Most of the time it's just a mana producer, but a lot of times when you need to Primeval Titan hold up Path to Exile, or Primeval Titan and play Ghost Quarter, what you're going to do is get Selesnya Sanctuary and pick up whatever you need, and then replay it. So you might replay Ghost Quarter and then Ghost Quarter Tron. If you get it off of Primeval Titan, you might Selesnya Sanctuary, pick up Blast Zone, play Blast Zone if you need to destroy some 1-drops on that turn. It really just lets you, if you're smart about it, let you untap lands that you need. So now, going into our spells, we have Elvish Reclaimer, we have Dryad of the Elysian Grove, and we have Primeval Titan just kind of as our engine creatures. We have Path to Exile to interact. This is good to tag opposing Dryads, opposing Primeval Titans, Uros, or just against decks with creatures like Jund and humans. We have Eladamri's Call, as I talked a little bit about earlier. We have Explore, kind of fills out our curve, just makes us a little bit more consistent. Tangled Florahedron, usually we just play it as a land. Sometimes it's good to ramp with, and sometimes we get it with Call. Skyclave Apparition is just good as, it's a tutorable catch-all that we can kind of get any problematic permanents with, whether that be an Ensnaring Bridge, an Ashiok, a Renin 6, Jace. It hits Planeswalkers a lot. Sometimes it'll hit Uro, can hit opposing Dryads, things like that. So moving along to the sideboard, so we have 2 copies of Relic of Progenitus. This is good against, obviously, the graveyard decks like Dredge and Oops, and it also comes in against all of the blue decks. We have Boil, obviously good against the blue decks. These two provide a pretty good package to make sure that graveyard stays small. And this is just kind of a must-counter thing that, if they don't counter it, they lose. If they do counter it, usually it opens up a window for us to resolve Primeval Titan. Collector Oof is good against, sometimes we board in against Aether Vial decks. It's good against a lot of the Walking Ballista Heliod strategies that have been going around. And, if anyone's playing artifacts, then it's pretty good there too. Night of Autumn, kind of the same deal. Good against, just very flexible. Good against burn strategies. Good against things that are trying to lock us out with artifacts or enchantments. We have Ramunap Excavator that's good against Tron, so we can recur Ghost Quarter. And then in matchups where our lands get destroyed, like the Mirror, where sometimes our Field of the Dead will get Ghost Quartered, or against blue decks that have Field of Ruin. We have Linvala, Keeper of Silence. This is also good against the Heliod Ballista decks that have been going around, any flavor of Devoted Druid. This can be a really good one. Aven Mind Censor is mostly for mirror type strategies. people that are trying to resolve Primeval Titan or play a lot of fetch lands. Obviously very good against Elvish Reclaimer. Eidolon of Rhetoric is good against... Honestly, you board it in against a lot of red strategies because they find it very difficult to kill if they can't cast 2 burn spells in one turn. And it's also good against combo decks. I know that Caleb Shearer has been doing pretty well with Storm lately, so that's a good one to have there. And then Celestial Purge is just so flexible. We board this in against, there's a red-black Shadow deck that's been going around lately. This hits all of their threats, and it's just for 2 mana, and it also hits Blood Moon. It can also tag Ashiok, which is really hard to beat for us sometimes, and a few other things. So this is just comes in against a lot of stuff. I remember one time I played against Goblins, and I'm boarding in 4 Purge, 4 Path. I have 8 just Terminates. How do they possibly win? And that just makes that matchup super good. So that's the deck, and let's get down to it. Hope you all enjoy the video. Hey there, everybody. Here we are for round number 1 of this modern prelim. We're on the play, looking at a hand that's not really up to par, so we're going to go ahead and take a mulligan. This hand is a little bit better. I'm going to keep this one. It's... It's definitely not quite up to our standard of what we want, but I think it's still all right. This hand can still put Titan in play ahead of schedule. Okay, so looks like we're playing against the green-white Hammer Time deck. Wow. Honestly, might just be dead here. So I think that the goal here, because Colossus Hammer makes the creature it's on lose flying, the goal here is going to be to make zombies. Of course, it looks like our opponent just has a second hammer, and so we're just going to lose. Cranial cheese. So that's going to be a 5. All right. I'm just going to take Skyclave Apparition here. I'm going to exile the Cranial Plating because we can still block the Ornithopter that's hammered. And Pure Steel Paladin gets us because they can just put Colossus Hammer onto a flyer and we lose. Alright, well, if that didn't come down, I think we were actually in an okay spot, but so it goes, I guess. I'm bringing Collector Oof and Knight of Autumn, just as interaction with artifacts. Not really anything else that we can bring in. Their creatures don't have activated abilities themselves. We don't need Bajuka Bog, and we can shave in. We can just shave and explore, I guess. We're going to keep this hand. If I'm being honest, it's a little bit clunky, but having a natural Elvish Reclaimer plus a Path to Interact is a place that I like to be. Alright, this isn't even that big of a deal. We'll take the white mana, and then next turn we could start doing Dryad things. Just going to get a basic forest here. If we draw land next turn, we can just start bolting things on turn number 3, which is kind of wild. That Windswept Heath was definitely one of our better draws, though. Alright, that's pretty good. We were going to path this, but now we don't have to. Alright, so now my opponent can go and get a hammer, and they can cast it at instant speed, but they still don't have a creature to put it on. I do have this Ghost Quarter up to just shoot any creatures that they, or to just Ghost Quarter this, and now at this point I can Ghost Quarter myself or path my own creature in order to shoot their stuff with Valakut. So, feeling pretty good about this game. All right, and we got game number 2. Had a pretty solid draw after what looked like a slow hand, but I think I'm pretty happy with this. The only thing that comes to mind is that these 2 cards are good specifically against Stoneforge Mystic, but Linvala isn't good when they're getting 1 mana artifacts with Stoneforge, because they're not really using the activated ability. And I think that, you know, I guess I could have even Mind Center, because they do have 2 tutors for it. So I think that Mind Center might actually be good. So they also had that 1 mana Steel Shaper's Gift, I think that it was. And this hand is solid. It's not everything we're looking for, but it is a turn 4, turn 1 and 2. We have an early Path, we have a turn 3 Dryad, and if we draw a couple more lands, we have a turn 4 Titan with Dryad in play, which is usually good enough to win against creature decks like this. So we're going to go ahead and keep. Opponents also kept 7, it looks like. Oh wow, they mulliganed to 5. That's very good for us. So they don't have Sigarda's Aid yet, and they don't have Pure Steel Paladin, at least not on the table, which means they still can't equip a hammer or something, even if they did find it. It's probably just... It's possible I was just supposed to play this Temple Garden tapped, so that I don't telegraph this Path to Exile. But I think this is fine. Opponent goes ahead and gets Cranial Plating. That makes sense. Alright, so we are looking at a turn 4 Titan with a Valakut in play. So if we do get to resolve that, then that should be really good for us. Of course, if my opponent has Path, then it's significantly worse, but that's alright. That's not good. That's dangerous. We're just going to Path this. I assume that they have, yeah. We don't want them drawing a card here. Or being able to equip for 0. So we're still at 17. We're about to resolve Primeval Titan. I'm feeling pretty good about this game. I think I'm going to go and get Field Blast Zone. I think that Blast Zone is going to be good on this board. Yep. Nexus, Inkmoth Nexus would be their plan here. As long as I can untap, then I should be fine, because I'm holding up Ghost Quarter, I have Path to Exile, and I have Blast Zone, and so there's not a whole lot they'll be able to do. Alright. We're just going to go ahead and make as many zombies as we can, put them dead next turn. So we'll go ahead and get field. Suppose we might as well get field flagstones. Alright, your move, opponent. Show us what you got. Not really sure what they can... I don't think that they can have anything here, because even if they were to give it hexproof, somehow, like they wouldn't be able to give it hexproof through Path to Exile. And even if I didn't have this Path to Exile, I would be able to blow up Blast Zone on 1 to destroy Shadow Spear. And then that would make... well, I suppose it wouldn't have worked there. But we did end up getting that match against what looks like a pretty difficult matchup if they have a good draw. So happy to come out of that one. We are 1-0, and I'll see you for round 2. Alright, hey there everybody. We are here for round number 2 of this Modern Prelim. I keep saying Pioneer because I've been recording a lot of Pioneer content lately, but we are playing Modern today, and we've got a pretty solid hand here. We've got turn 1 Elvish Reclaimer, and we have a natural Flagstones of Trocare, which, honestly, if this Elvish Reclaimer dies, it's going to be pretty bad, and it looks like it is dying. But you can't really get rid of a hand that has natural Reclaimer plus Flagstones. That's just really what the deck is trying to do. Alright. So because that died, we're actually in a little bit of trouble here. We don't obviously have anything going on other than our lands. Hoping to draw another Reclaimer, a Dryad, or a Primeval Titan soon. Those would all be good. Looks like opponent's on a blue-red Delver strategy. This, if I'm in all honesty, doesn't look very good, but we'll see. It's possible that with our weak draw, they're gonna be pretty good against us. Alright, so this is going to be a 4-4 now, which means we're just taking 7 a turn. So yep, we're probably going to lose this one. Kind of unfortunate, but I think that Elvish Reclaimer is a good enough start that that was a hand worth keeping. At this point, our only out is really just Primeval Titan, but don't expect that to be good enough at this point. Alright, and our opponent just has the Bolt to kill us. Wow. Would not expect a deck like this to be good, but here we are. So we're going to bring in Eidolon of Rhetoric and some number of Celestial Purges. I don't think we want all 4. And then we can just cut a couple of Explorers and then a couple of lands. I think we can get rid of Ghost Quarter. That doesn't seem very good. And let's just have 2 Celestial Purges. Now, I think it's worth noting that while it didn't work out, keeping a hand like that with Elvish Reclaimer is still really strong, I believe. Just because if it doesn't get disrupted, you just win the game. Like, there's just not a whole lot that an opponent can do about that. We're going to keep this hand because even if we do get disrupted, we have a turn 2 Eladamri's Call for a Dryad, and then we can start doing Valakut things. And then obviously there's the upside of if our Elvish Reclaimer lives, then it's going to be very good. And our Elvish Reclaimer did live. Despite that, I think that we are still just going to call for Dryad here, just because, you know, we drew this Titan, and so a turn 4 Titan is really, really good. I'm just going to go ahead and fire that off now. Do I get... Huh. I think I do get Dryad. There's a possibility that I'm supposed to get Skyclave Apparition there and just Apparition the Delver. But it's unclear if that's... I'm not sure if that's correct or not. We're just going to go ahead and play Dryad here. Get Valakut into play and attack for 1. Now, our opponent's dead next turn if they can't interact with our Dryad or with our Titan here. That was pretty good. That was pretty good. So my opponent is gusting this. I think that that is okay. I think that in response, I'm going to rotate this for... I could get another Valakut, or I could just get Field of the Dead. I think I should just get Field of the Dead. I'm going to just bolt this. And then, yeah, we can leave this on top. And now our opponent should have a tough time getting through because we've assembled Elvish Reclaimer plus Dryad, so we're going to be in pretty good shape here. Obviously, we are still at 8, and so we kind of have to fade, you know, some bolts, things like that, but that's all right. At this point, I'm probably just going to shuffle Dryad away, depending on what my opponent does here. Yeah. At this point, they can't counter my Primeval Titan, so I'm just going to shuffle Dryad away. What should I get here? Normally I would get Cavern of Souls, but in this case I think I just want to get a basic. Alright, opponent goes ahead and packs it in. Okay, I think I like our plan. Their plan is clearly resolve a Delver and then have a Delver or a Magmatic Channeler or something, and then disrupt us, probably with Remands and with Ether Gust, and I think that this is a good plan against them. We have a lot of white removal, and if we can get an early Reclaimer to stick, that can be an awesome tool. think this is a solid hand. Got a piece of interaction. Eidolon should be pretty good against them. Just going to lead on field here. And this is what we like to see. We like to see them spending their first couple turns setting up with cantrips instead of developing threats. That's much better for us. Because that also gives us plenty of time to get set up. So now, I was sort of expecting this, and that's why one of the reasons why we played Windswept Heath there is just that getting under Blood Moon is, getting a basic when we're under Blood Moon is a good spot to be. So here, I'm just going to play Dryad, and then we actually have kind of a nice line here where we can play Bog and play Sanctuary, and these just, they tap for any color, and we don't have to bounce a land to our hand with Sanctuary. So once we enter this Blood Moon, I think, okay, well that was good. I'm going to start by attacking for 2 here. And now, by playing this Eidolon of Rhetoric out, if my opponent... Okay. So if my opponent casts any spell on their turn, then I can just respond by Celestial Purging the Blood Moon, and then they can't fight with a counterspell. So Eidolon actually puts us in a pretty good spot where our opponent can be proactive or reactive, but they can't be both. Alright, so we start making zombies here. And then we should just be in really good shape to win this game from here. Thought Scour is fine. Actually, I should have responded to that with Path to Exile, I think. So I do want to kill this Magmatic Channeler with Path. I don't want to let that attack me for 4. Alright, this is fine though. This means that if they want to get a land, I'll get to mess up their scries. They put 2 cards on the bottom. It's not as relevant, but... Alright. And I think that we can win this game by just slowly chipping away with the zombies. Not really in any hurry. Especially with this removal spell in our hand. It's possible that I should have used this Purge on the Magmatic Channeler instead of the Path. But I think that this was fine. Wow, our opponent is really just cantripping forever, aren't they? Yeah, this is just fine with me. Attacking with all of these because I really don't... I wouldn't mind if they bolted my Dryad, but I really don't want them bolting this Eidolon. I feel like this Eidolon is really helping us stay in the game here. I'll go ahead and put that on the bottom. They'll trade with a zombie, but we're still pretty far ahead here. Ooh, they have Terramander. I'm just now noticing that. Alright, so I have them dead next turn. We'll bottom that. They did leave a card on top with their opt. Might have been that Gust, not really sure, obviously. Alright, that one's fine. Yeah. We're just going to path it. Don't want to untap and path it just because that would let them counter it, so... Wow, they are out of basic lands. Interesting. Alright, again, they'll trade with a zombie, which is fine. We're just going to Eladamri's Call for a Titan. Sure. Alright, and they just go ahead and concede. Looks like they just didn't have a way to interact with this Titan. So again, we played against kind of an off-the-wall deck there, but we were able to get away with a win. So we're 2-0 now, and we'll see you for round number 3. Alright, y'all, here we are for round number 4. Looking at an okay hand, but we're on the place. We're going to go ahead and keep. I'm sorry, did I just say round 4? I meant round number 3. That's my mistake. But anyways, we're just going to get this Reclaimer going. Probably turn this Blast Zone into a Flagstones on turn 2, but we'll see. Something I should note is that I made a mistake here. You usually want to get a basic on turn 1 with this, because when you Flagstones, you usually want to turn Flagstones into a Temple Garden, and you don't want 2 Temple Gardens in play at the same time. So that was a little bit of a mix-up, something wasn't really thinking about at the time, but something that I do believe is correct. So right now, it looks like our opponent's just on kind of a blue pile. Looks like a Wrenn and 6 coming down, which is the kind of deck that we really like to be playing against. We can grind with them, and our late game a lot of times is better than theirs. And we have a lot of ways to disrupt their graveyard and a few other things. So we're pretty happy to see this matchup. I'm going to start by just casting a copy of Explore. And now we can play an uncounterable Titan next turn. Opponent's probably just going to Uro here. And we are very ahead this game. I'm not going to get the Sacred Foundry yet. No real point in letting them know that we have Boil in our sideboard. So they're not leaving up Counterspell mana. I still think that I just go ahead and grab Cavern of Souls on Giant. I'm actually going to get it on Dryad. I think that that's better. That way next turn we can just Valakut our, well, I think that I am getting just 2 Field of the Dead here, but next turn we can use Elvish Reclaimer to crop rotate into some Valakuts. Alright. Pretty good for a turn 4, wouldn't you say? That's fine. It's actually kind of a problem, but I think it'll end up being fine. We might end up needing to use Skyclave Apparition on this Renin 6, because I assume that we're probably not getting an attack step here. And we can't really let this thing go ultimate. Alright, so we're just going to immediately go to combat. Get our team tapped down. Oh, wow. Oh, okay, now they have Growth Spiral in to tap my team. I'm going to play my first Dryad out here and then just use that to make zombies with Sanctuary. So at this point my opponent needs just running Cryptics to stay in this game. Obviously they do have their Mystic Sanctuaries to help with that, but I really wish they hadn't pathed my Reclaimer. That makes things a lot more difficult. I probably should have gotten a Valakut with that primetime trigger. That was probably a mistake. Just would let me kill them even through all of this happening. Alright, I'm going to cast an Eladamri's Call here. Hopefully it resolves. Hopefully my opponent doesn't have Force, and then we can just grab Primeval Titan. We're just going to go ahead and get 2 copies of Valakut. Hopefully our Dryad doesn't get pathed here. Okay, that's really good. Cool, we got there in game 1. So after board, we get access to some really good tools. We get access to Relic of Progenitus, and we get access to Boil. Both are really good at helping us keep their graveyard down, and in the case of Boil, like destroying half their lands is usually pretty good. I think that we've been cutting Radiant Fountain is not super necessary, and then all of the Path to Exiles. Path to Exile is just like, it can kill Uro, but we have Relic of Progenitus and Skyclave Apparition and Bojuka Bog, and we would rather they just never resolve Uro in the first place. So, and if they do, if we're not going over the top of Uro, we're probably losing. So that's why we take out the pass, because otherwise they're just ramping our opponent, and they have, you know, their Cryptic Lock and their own Field of the Deads, and so we're not really interested in giving them more lands. This is a solid hand. We'll go ahead and keep it. Obviously, we love to see turn 1 Elvish Reclaimer. If this somehow dies, we do have, you know, our Explore. And then otherwise, this hand is looking, you know, about the same as it did last game. And we saw how that went. Okay, that's really good. And the great thing about Elvish Reclaimer in these blue, against these blue matchups, is that they usually don't play like Lightning Bolt against us. And so we can really just, you know, if it gets Path, that's fine, because then they're just ramping us. And, you know, until then, we are just happy to get value with our Flagstones of Trocaire. Love an untapped land here. That one's pretty good too. And the reason Relic is so good, not only because it keeps Uro down, but it also means that our opponent can't Cryptic Lock us out of the game. So we really just love to have this in play. Makes the game a lot easier. I'm going to hold on to it for right now. If my opponent puts another couple cards in their graveyard, then I'll probably crack it this turn. But, oh geez. So now I'm faced with kind of a tough decision. I actually think that I am supposed to use Elvish Reclaimer here. So the tough decision here is that I can crop rotate away this Flagstones, but doing that means that I take my Relic mana down, and so I think that I'm just going to get Bojuka Bog here, so that even if my opponent has a fetch land, they can't escape Uro. I think I've got enough white sources at this point. Alright, now we've got this Dryad to put pressure on our opponent, so I'm just going to pass the turn here. I don't really want to use my Explore yet. I think I'm just going to Eladamri's Call it end of turn. There's a couple different things we could go and get, but I'll probably just go and get just another Primeval Titan. Although I could get Elvish Reclaimer just to double spell. I might do that actually. No, I think that I am supposed to get Prime Time. If the first one gets Cryptic Commanded, that's fine. Oh, wow. I will put that on top. And now we're just going to pass. Don't want my opponent drawing Gust again. And, like, yeah, my opponent gets to make zombies here, but that's just so much worse than what Valakut's doing. Alright, so now my opponent has to counter this Primeval Titan. That second Valakut was a very good draw there. And then if that doesn't resolve, then we still just get to go again next turn, and we have Explore. So if this Explorer finds a land, then we just win the game on the spot. So we're going to name Giant just in case. Oh. Well, our opponent just goes ahead and concedes. That was good enough. So there we have it. We had a combination of, you know, powerful creatures in Reclaimer and Dryad, putting pressure on our opponent's counterspells with Primeval Titan, and then just, yeah, winning the game. Relic of the Progenitus was very good that game. Stopped our opponent from recurring their Ether Gust and stopped them from escaping Uro. This card's an all-star. Alright, we are 3-0, and we will see you for the next one. Hey everybody, we are back here for round number 4, playing for the 4-0 here. And, sorry, I accidentally mulliganed before I started recording, but we're looking at a pretty solid 6 here. Our first hand was fine. It had 3 lands and a Dryad, but not much else going on. It wasn't really powerful enough to keep. But we do like this one. Looks like we're playing against another blue pile. Unfortunately, it looks like they have Bolt here, which is very sad. Call is a solid draw, though. We're probably just going to go ahead and get Titan with this, but we may also just get... I think I'm going to wait to cast this. Wait for a little bit more information about what I'm drawing. I would also like my opponent to tap some mana on their own turn so that I can Eladamri's Call without fear of Force of Negation. Hinterland Harbor. I don't know what Hinterland Harbor means, to be honest. Probably some sort of Wilderness Reclamation deck. Fact or fiction? Wow. I'm going to Eladamri's Call right now. So they put Misty, Wrenn, and 6, and Remand into their hand. Just going to get Primeval Titan, I think. Just going to wait here. I'd like to be able to double spell on the turn that I cast Primeval Titan, so I'm going to call, likely for Elvish Reclaimer at the end of my opponent's turn. Although, actually, I don't know how good that is. It's not very good because they can just put Lightning Bolt back on top of their deck. Huh. Spell Snare. Wow. The good news is, starting next turn, we do get to start making Field of the Dead tokens. So I actually do think that I played Primeval Titan here, because otherwise my opponent can just put Fact or Fiction back on top of their deck and just start going off that way. They can also use Cryptic to bounce one of my lands, which I don't really want them to do. I'm fine with this exchange. My biggest goal here is just to play Windswept Heath next turn and be able to make 4 zombies. I know that Primeval Titan's probably not resolving this game. Although if my opponent puts... Okay, it looks like they're getting Fact or Fiction and not Hour of Promise. Although I guess even when they do get Field of the Dead, I do have Ghost Quarter for it, so that's not a huge deal. Okay, so no matter how I split this, my opponent will be able to escape Uro next turn. I think I just do it like this. I don't want both of their Uros being able to go to the graveyard. And I'm not super concerned about the Force of Negation. That's just not really what this game's going to be about, I don't think. That's really bad. And I am just going to path this Uro here. Feels really bad, but I think that we have to do it. It's honestly possible that I got a little bit too hasty jamming my prime times, and that's why I'm going to lose this game. Alright, not winning this one. Their Red and 6 is going to ultimate, so can't really beat that. We're just going to do the same thing that we did last time with Boils, and I actually think that I like Raminap Excavator in this matchup, so we're going to go ahead and bring in the Relics, the Boils, and the Raminap Excavator. Cut the paths, cut Radiant Fountain, and I'm actually going to just go ahead and cut and Explore. Oh, you know what? I'm actually supposed to have a few Celestial Purges because of Ashiok Dream Render. So I'm going to shave an Eladamri's Call and another Explore to make room for those. This can hit Ashiok and it can also hit Renin 6, so I think it's a good thing to have. That was a mistake my first go around. Last round when we played against the other, I think that one was just Esper. No, not Esper. Bant, but either way. I still think that this is a solid hand. Just gonna bottom plains, I guess. Yeah, we don't really need the plains. Alright, happy to see Dryad resolve there. Now I obviously can't boil while Dryad's in play, otherwise I'll destroy all of my own lands. But if they ever kill Dryad, then I'll be able to... Well, it doesn't look like my opponent has very many lands at all, to be honest. Or very many islands, I should say. I'm gonna Eladamri's Call in response to this, and then just grab Primeval Titan. Doing it in response so that we can't get Force of Negation. Obviously they could still have Force of Negation in their hand, but I think it's worth just firing off the call there. My opponent's just gonna concede, they can't win that one. I mean, I did still need to draw a land. I would have gotten there in a couple turns, but their hand must have been pretty bad. Alright, so thinking more about it this time, I think that I do like where I ended up here. Obviously, we didn't get a whole lot of information from that match, or from that game. They just played 3 lands, divinationed, and conceded. But I still think that this is a pretty good build for game number 3 here. We can keep this one. Not interested in playing Tangled Florahedron as a creature against the Renin 6 deck, so I'm just going to play it out as a land here. My opponent took a mulligan to 6, it looks like. Alright, don't love to see Field of the Dead, but we do get to Ghost Quarter that before it becomes relevant, I hope. I think I'm just going to get... Actually, I think I'm just going to get Elvish Reclaimer with this one. My opponent doesn't have red mana yet. They might just have it in hand, but I'm not super scared of them bolting this. Alright, well, we are just going to bottom it. We don't care about it that much. We're fine to eat up an Ether Gust there, though. really wish that my opponent would do something here. I want them to tap mana so that I can boil them. Even if they don't tap mana, I'm just going to go for the boil on their end of turn, and then plan to untap in Primeval Titan. Yeah, so we're just going to cast this, hopefully make them use up some of their mana. Alright, so they just Ether Gusted it, which is fine. That's basically like, we just get to go again this turn. It's still just going to boil again, might as well. And that's 2 Ether Gusts we've used up, so. Alright, and our opponent can't beat the second boil, so they're just going to go ahead and concede, which means we are 4-0 in this prelim, which means that we get the 40 QPs, which is what we came here for. So that's really awesome. And I'll see you in a minute for the breakdown. All right, hello everybody. So we were able to get there. We went 4-0 in the prelim. We beat Mono White Hammer Time, I've seen the deck called, with Colossus Hammer. We beat Blue Red Delver, and then a couple of blue piles. And honestly, this deck has just felt very good. Really felt like it lived up to, you know, being the best deck in the format. So to kind of break things down, we never really saw Hour of Promise. This was a card that I was really curious about, and we just never got to try. So going forward, I'm going to try to draw this one more and see what we can do there. Other than that, you know, the deck felt great. You know, the mana base, really well built. Liked having, it's pretty nice having 33 lands, but you're never able to flood. Except for that one game we played against Delver, I suppose. Out of the sideboard, the Eidolon was very good against Delver. I honestly didn't really expect that until we played against it, but it just made it so that their cantrips were just like making... Their cantrips were basically time walks for us, which was really nice. We didn't play against any other Titan decks, so Mind Sensor wasn't very good. I'm still not sure how I feel about this Ramunap Excavator. It's good if you expect a lot of Tron, and in the Showcase Challenge that I was talking about, Will and I each played against Tron once or twice, and so I think that we might have been a little bit scared of that, but unless it makes a big resurgence, I just don't really think that it's super necessary in the sideboard. I would honestly go up to a third Relic of Progenitus. I've been really impressed with that card against the blue Uro piles. As for the rest of the sideboard, obviously Boil is just stellar. We played against the Uro piles twice. We played against a Blood Moon deck once, and Celestial Purge was great there. Never disappointed with that. And overall, this deck just feels really good. Going forward, there's actually a version of this deck that's been going around that plays, it's Bant. It doesn't actually play white, but it's a blue deck that plays kind of this mana base. It's got like blue land, it's got a copy of Mystic Sanctuary. Then it plays Growth Spirals, Uros, Remands, and Cryptic Commands. So it has those for interaction and ramp in place of the Path to Exiles and the Eladamri's Calls. It still plays the big 3 creatures. It still plays Reclaimer, Dryad, and Primeval Titan. And some friends and I have been having a lot of success in modern leagues with that. And so going forward, that's something that I would really like to try and see if it's, you know, actually competitively viable or if it's just good in the leagues. But being able to combine powerful cards like, you know, Uro and Cryptic Command with Elvish Reclaimer and Primeval Titan, even if it's not good in the long run, it's been a lot of fun so far. And so going forward, I'm definitely looking forward to trying that out a little bit. Until then, thank you for watching. If you have any thoughts about the deck or have an idea for what I should play next on Making Magic Happen, let me know down in the comments. Hope you enjoyed, and have a good one.
I'm joined by Kyle Balgamez. Welcome, Kyle.
How are you?
Raja Suleiman with Orzhov.
Max McVitie.
Congratulations, Brian to Mars.
Zach Allen. I wouldn't be here without these guys, though. So.
And the champion of Proto Cards Attack here, Ari Lax.